And I'm super happy she's on her way back down to the basement. Allison Baggerly joins us. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me over in your
It's
basement.
it's about time you wrote a book. It's about time.
I never thought I would. This was never something that I thought I would do, but I did it. I wrote a book, Joe, like my words. It's mine. I didn't ghostwrite it, so if it's terrible, I hired a ghostwriter. If you love it, I wrote it myself.
Which it reads like I'm reading it, by the way, in your voice. I can hear you talking to me
Thank you.
as you read it, and it's funny and it's sad and it's poignant, and there's tons of great advice, which we're going to share some of the early advice in the book here today. But let's talk about this right from the introduction. Let's get into it. This journey started for you when you and Matt, your adorable spouse, who I've met on two occasions, and what a cool guy. You and Matt are sitting at the table, but you guys didn't think each other were cool at that time. You're 111,000. Well, you've got the exact number. It's 111,000, $108.29 in debt. And that doesn't include your mortgage. You don't talk about this. You talk about you crying, and that this is kind of a big catalyst moment for you, like a wake up call. But what caused you to sit down at that table that day? Like, why did you guys, were the bills just coming in faster and faster? Like, why did you sit down and finally add it up?
Oh my gosh, I had a positive pregnancy test. There's nothing like having a baby on the way that's going to wake you up and force you to be an adult. We had a positive pregnancy test and we were like, okay, how much is daycare? Is it like what? $200, $300 a month? And we were like, holy crap, no. This daycare at the time was $900 a month, which is like cheap these days.
Yeah.
And we didn't have, like, there was not $900 left over. There was no money left over. So we had this wake up call of, well, I can't quit my job because we don't make enough money for me to quit my job. So we have to find some cash flow. And that's what forced us to sit down. I would love to take you on this journey and say it was super introspective and it was all about, wanting a better life for myself and my husband and that I was worthy of change. But that's a lie. I didn't do it for me. I did it for someone else. But on that journey, I realized, wait a minute, I am worth it. My husband's worth it. With or without kids, this was a worthy journey of going on. But I didn't start there, and that's okay.
Yeah, and that was one of my favorite lines, by the way, in the introduction when you write, I wish I could tell you that it was great, but that wasn't it. It took you 5 years to clear out $111,000 in debt. And when I see that number, by the way, and that's minimum payments, $1,400 a month, I'm imagining on two teacher salaries,
Yeah.
and you're not getting anywhere, right? With paying $1,400. I mean, it's going to take you your entire life to pay that off. But 5 years, and I look at that and I think, Allison, that is way fast. But you say in the book, you could have done this much faster. Like you screwed everything up.
Do I say that in the book?
Well, you don't say it exactly. Like, we made so many mistakes, and how
Of
inspiring.
course.
But how inspiring is that for a guy that was also, my catalyst was, I was on the side of the road. I'd run out of gas. I'm advising other people how to do their money. I'm a complete sham. I've got tons of debt. My credit is horrible. And for me, it was the same as you. I am crying about my money, but I remember thinking this hole is super, super deep. And to hear that it would only take 5 years for somebody out there that might have $111,000 of debt and you can still mess it up and get there in 5 years. I don't know. I found that really inspiring.
Well, thank you. It felt very long. And I think that's part of it is when you're in it, when you're in the process, it can be very overwhelming and it can feel very, very long. And every screw up feels like it's screwing up the entire journey, right? Yeah. It's very easy for me to say, oh my gosh, we had car trouble and now the entire journey is messed up, but it's not. Those are just little blips. It's not going to be this straight line. There's going to be times whenever you lose motivation and you have to motivate yourself, honestly. Like, no one's going to stand there and do it for you and help you stay on track. But it was 4.5 years. So I want to put that out there. It was 4.5 years, but 5 years was our goal. And it was a lot, especially with kids in daycare. And I look back and I think, gosh, sometimes I worry that 5 years, like, that's not very inspiring. Like 5 years, that's like having a baby and sending them to kindergarten. But when you look at it and you look at how much money that was on two teacher salaries, I mean, we were bringing home $5,000 to $6,000 a month, and you have 1,500 of that going to debt and another 900 and then ultimately 1,500 going to daycare, that's a significant amount of money that we weren't able to necessarily enjoy. And that was our goal, was to be able to keep all of our money and enjoy it.
You're trying to get ahead then on roughly $2,500 a month and live, like get this paid off and live on the 2,500 that's left. The first chapter of your book is all about finding a catalyst, right? You had your catalyst. I have my catalyst. So many people have a catalyst like yours or mine that I've heard stories of over the years of. It's this Phoenix from the flame, right? That I was crying at my table, or I was standing next to this rusted out minivan, whatever it is. How do you find your catalyst without getting to that point? Because that's what I'm sure, if there's somebody driving down the road right now going, yeah, I don't want that. I don't want to be sitting at my table. I don't want to be, how do I get to that catalyst without having to have that extreme push of, okay, it's got to change or I'm going to just go bankrupt?
Yes. I love this question because I don't think that every catalyst has to be this rock bottom moment that you and I experienced. In fact, I would prefer for it not to be for anyone that's listening. Like, you don't need to have this rock bottom moment that Joe and I hit and we were like, oh crap, what do we do? And so in the first chapter, I do talk about how your catalyst could be just those annoying moments in your life. For instance, you wanting to take a vacation, but realizing that, hey, you can't really go the way you want to go, or you can't fly, you have to drive instead because you don't have the money to save up for it or prepare for it. It can be these small, annoying moments that all together combine to be a catalyst. And then also your catalyst can be your dreams, your hopes and your wants for your future. I think that we live in this life where everyone is constantly telling us what we want, what we need to spend our money on, what's best for us. So we have to block out the noise and really think about, what do I actually want? Because I don't have to have it all, but what do I want? And if paying off debt or saving money or investing gets me there, then that can be enough of a reason to kickstart you to changing your money habits.
That is such a powerful point, because up until I made my change, I was trying to make everybody else happy. Like, I was trying to make creditors happy by sending them a little bit of money. I was trying to make, other people happy by bringing gifts to the party, right? Or paying for everybody's dinner, or doing all this crazy stuff when I didn't have any money to do that with. And once I realized that this is my journey, like, I don't know if this happened for you, Allison, but something clicked. Like, I was like, okay, I'm already screwed. These people can get a little bit from me now, or they can get a lot from me later, which I'd much rather have. I'd much rather. So I had to tell creditors to screw off. I'll pay you when I'm paying you. I had to tell family members that we weren't doing holidays the same. Like, but that was so powerful. How did you see things change as you found yourself in the driver's seat?
What's interesting is I didn't have that same experience. For me, it was telling myself those things.
Oh.
For me, I love spending money, Joe. I get a high. I enjoy it. I love it. I don't get that same feeling when I invest or save. I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to own it. Do I invest and save? Yes. It's more of like a checklist on my thing. But when it comes to spending money, I was such an emotional and impulse spender. I would spend money when I was happy, when I was sad, when I was mad, when I was glad, when I was bored, when I was tired. Anytime I would want to spend money to either celebrate or deal with the feelings I was having. So for me, it was more like coming to myself and saying, okay, Allison, just because you feel this way doesn't mean that you turn to spending to deal with it. And I think so many people turn to vices. You have alcohol, you have drugs, you have eating. My vice was spending. And so being able to feel in control of that and being able to tell myself, you can wait, or there's something bigger and better, that was very powerful for me. And it changed my money habits. And it allowed me to no longer hate and resent my budget, but love it, enjoy it, and look forward to it.
Yeah, you called your budget like a timeout for your money. I thought that was, I laughed out loud at that one. I'm sitting in the room alone and I'm laughing. I'm like, oh, money timeout. That's pretty good.
Well, that's what it feels like, right? And that's what I thought it was. I thought it was like a shame on you, because I was so unhealthy with my money, and anything that tried to control my money felt like a punishment.
I got to think that's why in the second chapter, you go from the catalyst into money mindset, because you got to know you, right? For you and me, you and I bond over our ADD, number one. So ADD, I'm going to go make a decision and then later on go, oops, that might've been a mistake, or I'll go down the wrong rabbit hole. So I got to know that about myself. Second thing is you and I both like to spend money. So I got to know that other people that are in this community that we know, they will never spend a dime. And that's a problem too, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's a whole other problem. To talk about money mindset for a second and how we kind of get in our head and say, okay, how's my budget going to be different if I'm a spender versus if I'm this, whatever it might be.
I think it's so important for you to understand your past with money, your history with money. And then also realize, like, just because you are the way you are doesn't make you bad. You don't necessarily have to change. We have to deal with the emotions. So here's an example. Sometimes, I'm a business owner. I get in my head about things and I will start telling myself thoughts and lies like, oh, your business is going to fail. Or, oh my gosh, one day you're going to get canceled, Allison. Like all of these crazy things. And all of these thoughts are not necessarily true. So sometimes I have to go to my husband and I have to say, okay, you're very much like a robot. You don't have a lot of emotions.
He is. I've met him, by the way, everybody. He is not like a robot, but
no, he says that about himself.
That's the way they talk to each other too, though.
Yeah, that is true. He doesn't have high highs and he doesn't have low lows. He's just always stable. He's always very realistic. Whereas me, I can be a very emotional person. I don't know if you've caught that yet.
No, not at all.
Not at all. And so sometimes I have to go to him and I have to say, okay, I need you to help me just like not think on emotions, but think on facts and base my decisions on facts. And I'll go to him and he'll help me just think through things and he'll just ask me questions like, well, is that really true? Do you know it's true? And I'm able to think about things fact-based. And I think that we have to do that when it comes to our money mindset as well, when we think about our money, because so often we can think, I'll never be able to pay off this debt, or I'll never be able to retire. And those emotions can control our actions. But instead of doing that, we have to say, okay, is that true? Do I actually know it's true? And I even provide like literally questions inside chapter 2 to ask yourself to challenge those thoughts. That way we can make decisions based off of facts and truth and not always our emotions.
Well, then with that framework, then we go and we set up our budget. And what's interesting, Allison, is you're talking and you're thinking about what drives you. I found that as I started winning with money, as I went from losing to winning, that those changed. And you even talk about in the book how you went from thinking this was money jail to it kind of felt like, these are not your words, but it kind of felt like a game for you too. Like all of a sudden your brain kind of changes as you budget successfully. When did you see that change for you?
Oh, probably like 6 to 9 months in.
Yeah, it's a while. It's a while.
It was. Which to me, like anyone who's listening now and they think I don't like budgeting, that's okay that you don't like it now. That doesn't mean you'll always feel that way. Because when we started, I said, I'm going to write a budget until we're debt free. And after that, I am done. I am done with it. I'll never do it again. But what happens is it became a part of who I was. I was no longer writing a budget. I was a budgeter. I was no longer trying to control my money. I had control over my money. And it changed just the way I felt. It gave me so much confidence when it came to managing money, confidence I never had before. And so I think that when it comes to budgeting, it's just about looking at it in the sense of what do I value and how can I make sure that I am putting money towards those values.
Let's give people some tactical tips on their budget that you list off. Number one, you say budget per paycheck. Some people budget per week, per month. Yours is per paycheck. Why is that?
Because that's when my money comes in. Like, why would I budget just like right in the middle? So for instance, my husband and I, we get paid at the very end of the month. He gets paid on the 25th. I get paid on the last day of the month, whatever that is. I combine those paychecks into one like lump sum. And that lasts us from the first of that next month through the 14th. My husband's paid again on the 15th. That paycheck lasts us from the 15th until the end of the month. For me, it just makes sense. It makes sense for you to start exactly when that money comes in. And that way you feel like you have this fresh slate. So you don't have to do March 1st to March 31st. It doesn't have to be like that.
His income, and most people hanging out with us, their income is the set paychecks. Your and my income comes in waves, right? Comes in at different times. How do you budget if you're somebody who is commission based or somebody who's based on these variable income streams like you and I get?
I really struggled with that, Joe. I had been just a set salary, same amount every single month for years. And I went to being high and low and high and low. It caused me so much anxiety. I always felt like I didn't know. I didn't know what to expect. So I decided, that's it. I'm not doing that anymore. So I started paying myself a set salary. This is before I even became an S Corp and became an employee of my business. So money would come in. Every month, I would pay myself the same amount. And you can do this no matter how you're paid. If you have some sort of variable income or one that fluctuates, I like to call it like an income bucket. So you have money that comes in. Let's say you make $6,000 in a month. You need $5,000. You give yourself $5,000. You put that $1,000, that extra $1,000 into your income bucket. Then the next month comes, if you only make $4,000, you pay yourself that $4,000 and now you have money to draw from so that you can continue to make that same set amount.
You're replicating a paycheck for yourself. You're creating a paycheck.
Yes. Why not? I mean, if that's what you thrive on, then do it. And that's exactly what I thrive on. So
which also makes sense too, Allison, because a lot of people I met when I was a financial planner, I found if they are on a commission basis, they get big bonuses. They live these boom bust lifestyles, which are not healthy. Like it's like ramen noodle, big screen TV, ramen noodle, big screen TV. Like it is just, it's horrible, that thing. So setting it up so it's reliable and consistent not only helps you budget, I think it helps your life too.
Yes, because then you're not going to fall into lifestyle creep. When you make a lot of money, it's easy to sign up for things that might have more maintenance costs later on. And then we have this lifestyle creep that maybe one day we can't deal with. And that is something that as a business owner and as my income has grown, I have really tried to be very careful about, because I don't want to set my family up to where if something does happen with my business and I'm not making the same amount, we have to move out of our home. From the school where my kids go. I don't want that. So you have to be very mindful, and you can't let those big high times influence you, because you have to be aware that those low times might be coming and you have to prepare for them.
Yeah. What's cool is if you look at it that way, then you just give yourself a raise when you know that it is, that things have changed versus that boom bust. Number 2 on here, list out your income and fixed expenses. Use 2 tools, a bill payment log and a calendar. Talk about these 2 tools and how they work together.
So I particularly love the calendar. I still budget like this, and it's literally just a calendar. I'm a very visual person, Joe, and just with teaching students for so many years, I think that we are all such visual learners. So the calendar allows you to see when you're paid, when your bills are coming out, so that way you know which paycheck covers which bill. You don't really need this if you're paid monthly, but I feel like most people are not paid monthly. So this allows you to really see that. And then the bill payment log is because sometimes we just forget. Sometimes we just miss a payment. I remember when we were paying off debt, I had a car payment. I completely forgot to pay it. I was pregnant, so I had pregnancy brain. And I remember looking at our money being like, dang, we did good this month. Like, God, we have all this extra money. This is amazing.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And then I get a notice in the mail that's like, you didn't pay it. Here's your fee. And I was like, well, crap. If I had gone back to my bill payment log and almost did this as a checklist for myself, I would have realized I missed that bill. So if you have your bill set up on auto draft, you don't necessarily need this. But at the time, I didn't have my bill set up on auto draft, but it allowed me to kind of just double check and make sure I didn't make that mistake. Because here I was thinking I was so awesome. I was the best. I was so proud of myself. I even said something to my husband. And then this notice comes in and I was like, oh, I have eaten my words.
But what I like about what you said is the calendar kind of gives you the heartbeat. Like you can feel the heartbeat of your money in and out, so that you look at your bank statement and you don't high five yourself and you don't freak out when things are a little low, things are a little high, because you know that That's what time it is. That makes
Exactly.
total sense to me. Number 3 on your list, then, budgeting for variable expenses. These are the ones that threw off my early budgets. Like my twins would get invited to a birthday party and they both had to bring, something, or the dishwasher breaks, which happened right now. Like literally tomorrow, we're getting a new dishwasher installed. That was money I'll never get back. But budgeting for these variables, how do you put them in?
Oh my goodness. I just put them right down on the budget sheet, but you have to really be mindful. And this is where it's good to know your patterns, know your past spending patterns. For instance, gas always throws us off. Like, how much am I going to spend on gas? My husband has a long commute. When I'm able to go back and look at the patterns and see how often he's filling up, I can estimate an amount that should be about right. So when it comes to budgeting for those variable expenses, those expenses that change, it's kind of, to me, it's a game. I see it as like, how close can I get? Like when I'm budgeting and I'm trying to estimate my electricity bill, I might go back and look at what I paid last year in the same month. And I try to just get as close as I possibly can. And that is really where I think a lot of people go wrong when it comes to their spending money and their restaurants and their groceries. If you're not keeping tabs on it, it can be really easy to spend way more than you are spending. And it can be really easy to assume you don't spend that much. When you're actually spending $1,000 a month at the grocery store, if you don't know that pattern in yourself, it's very easy to sit down at the budget when you're making your budget and say, I'll spend $400. Like $100 a week is great. No, it's not. It's not realistic. If you spend $1,000 and you want to spend less, aim for $900. You don't need to cut it all the way back and then be frustrated with yourself because you blew it in 1 week.
You'll spend $100 on eggs.
I know, right? That's why I'm trying to convince my husband to get chickens. In my HOA, we're not allowed to have them, but chickens can be an emotional support animal, technically.
No. Cheryl said the same thing a few weeks ago. I'm like, no.
Oh, I want them so bad.
Oh, we are not. Do not talk to Cheryl, please.
Okay, well. No, I will. You send me your number later.
Dude, no, okay. I am not now. I was like, oh, you got to meet my friend Allison. Now I'm like, nope. You do not need to meet my friend Allison. No, please, God, no chickens. Number 4, budget for debt payments and savings. I was interested that this was last because everybody says pay yourself first. Why was this number 4 on your list and not number 1?
Oh, good question. I guess it could be number 1 if you want. But for me, when I think about budgeting and the way I budgeted when I was paying off debt was I always wanted to make sure I sent extra money to debt as soon as I possibly could. Because if I left that money in my checking account, I'm going to spend it.
Yeah,
I have
me too.
no issues doing that. So once I knew all of my fixed expenses and all of my variable expenses, anything left, I would leave a buffer. Anything left went straight to my goal. So I personally like knowing my numbers first, and the numbers change every month. My fixed expenses stay the same, but my variable expenses do not stay the same. There is some fluctuation. So I want to be able to really maximize that number and be able to say, okay, everything left is going to a goal I have, whether that goal is to invest, save money, pay off debt, you enter your goal here. But I like knowing that dollar amount. And then if it's not as much as I want it to be, that's when I go back to my variable expenses and I say, okay, can I shave off $50 here and there from different things? And one of the biggest things I do is I would always make those debt payments right away. So that way that money was not in my account, and it really forced me to stay accountable with the rest of my spending.
Which is important for a spender to do, right? Just get it out of there. And then your brain's got to find a different way around it than spending money.
I don't recommend doing that if you don't have a savings, though. Make sure you have money in savings, just in case. Life happens.
And it's funny you say that because even as I was asking that question, Allison, I was thinking about the very next chapter of your book. You talk about big problems people have. And one is, and I saw this a ton when I was a financial planner, is you'll be excited about this right after you hear Allison speak here today, after you read her book. You're going to be super excited. You get geeked and you're going to live that ramen noodle lifestyle. And I will tell you right now, that is a monster mistake. You're going to budget everything to the bone. You're not going to leave yourself a buffer. You're never going to go out to eat. You're never going to have any fun. It will be a timeout for your money. Life is going to suck and you will implode. And you say this in your book, you will implode and then you won't get back on the horse. You won't do it again. Like I think it's far better to have your income and fixed expenses first, maybe for that reason too, that you can give yourself a little bit of life before you. Yeah.
I agree, because I think that we all deserve spending money. And that was my thing. I imploded. I remember walking into Target. That was my vice. That was my place I would go. And I remember like spending $300, and I came home and I told my husband, I was like, you and the budget can suck it. Like, this is not like, I'm not taking any of this back. This is what we're doing, because I had no control. I had no freedom. I felt like I was just like living just to pay off debt and to have no fun. So I'm a big believer in finding balance. And I think that by budgeting your variable expenses and budgeting spending money first really allows you to have that balance in life, which then allows you to make progress and still be motivated and want to stay on track for the long haul. Because 4.5 years, 5 years, that's a long haul. That is lots of opportunities to fall off track, which we did, but we always got back on. And it's because we were creating a budget that was realistic and reasonable for our family.
That's so exciting. In 5 years, if you have 6 figures of debt, you can get out of it. I mean, 5 years. And to your point, feels like a long time at the beginning, but man, looking back, I don't know, it's so cool.
Oh my gosh, it's so worth it. It's so funny because, Joe, the other day, my husband was mowing, and I'm totally going to throw him under the bus here. He was mowing and he mowed over a rock, and the rock shot out and it hit the very top of this massive window in our entryway. It's like, it's on the second story, massive window, and it just shattered. I mean, into like a million pieces. I was mad, but at that moment, I was like, more annoyed than anything. And I thought, the fact that this annoys me and doesn't keep me up at night, stress me out, cause me so much anxiety, lead to a huge, massive fight where I resent my husband, the fact that that annoys me is all because of that 5 years of work, of setting ourselves up to where we don't have any other debt payments other than our mortgage, and we have money in savings to cover things like an $1,800 window replacement.
All of my questions today came from just the first couple chapters of the book. You get into then efficient strategies to pay down debt. You talk a lot about saving money. The book is called Money Made Easy: How to Budget, Pay Off Debt, and Save Money. This is available everywhere, correct?
Yes. So you can get it at Barnes & Noble, Amazon. Get it. You'll love it. I would love for someone to read it and then pass it on. Like, read it, get the information, and then give it to someone else. Like, that would make my heart so happy, because there's always someone out there that we just needed to hear it from just one different point of view to make it stick.
And this episode comes out, and by the way, guys, from the finished version of this, we'll be. This is what I love about recording, is that Steve, our engineer, will be cutting this, but this comes out, Allison, on April 3rd. I think the book's out April 4th, right?
April 4th. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So actually, you know what, guys, we're going to do that tomorrow. Or let me just say that one more time, and we'll do it, because I think your answer was good, but my question was off. 3, 2, 1. And it's available everywhere tomorrow, correct?
Yes, it's available everywhere tomorrow where you can buy books. I would love for you to get yourself a copy. And then what would make my heart so happy is if you actually got a copy, read it, and then passed it on to a family member or a friend, someone that you know wants to make money easy.
A lot of our community likes audiobooks. You doing the audiobook? You have to. You're a podcaster.
I know. So I'm doing the audiobook, but I'm not reading it. I'm super bummed.
One star.
I know, but at least it's going to be an audiobook form. But I do have a podcast, so you can go listen to my podcast, which is me. I have 2 podcasts.
I know, Inspired Budget, which is fantastic. But then also This Is Awkward, which is these amazing covers. I'm seeing This Is Awkward I've seen Inspired Budget all over the place as well, but This Is Awkward just lately I've seen everywhere. Like, you guys are everywhere.
Oh gosh, well, that's all Chris is doing.
She's like, no. I'm saying people talking about it, going, "Oh, I was listening to my favorite show. This Is Awkward." Yes.
Oh yeah, it's a fun show.
Yeah. So go listen to Allison and pick up the book, and then hand it to a friend who needs help. Allison, thanks so much for hanging out with Stackers and helping us get better with our money and better with our budget.
Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody, that's the recorded session. And now it's you guys, and we've got some
What do we have going on here?
some questions.
Hair in my
Allison
eye.
hit him with the
Curly hair.
I don't know, Derek, what your comment means.
What's happening?
Zayan asks one that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. I have investment and I want to invest in an online business model. Which is the best to invest in? Not our topic, unfortunately. I have no idea. Guys, if you've got a question, you're hanging out here with us live in Fireside, feel free to step up to the microphone, hit the microphone button, and request to come up on stage and ask your question, because those were all of mine, and I'm sure you've got some. Mm-hmm. If you're on YouTube, it's the same. Just type it, and Kate will grab your question. We'll forward it to me. I'm going to pull up the questions that I've got here from people that couldn't make it. Great. Carrie couldn't be here and said, is there a net worth or income level when you kind of work backwards, like meet all investment goals and expenses, but don't track every single dollar? You like the, but you like the track every dollar method, don't you?
I do, but you know what? I really am a firm believer, Joe, that personal finance is personal. Like, I very much am a big believer in that. I like tracking every dollar because it brings me joy, which is so freaking weird. Like, I get it. I get that I'm weird like that. This does not bring my husband joy. It doesn't. He does not look forward to sitting down and tracking every dollar. He lets me.
He'd rather be putting rocks through your window.
Exactly, right? Rude.
Yes.
So I think that definitely there is, especially when you set up your accounts to essentially be your budget for you. Like, you can have your money come in your account, and you can have a bills account. So you can transfer the money to your bills account. That way all your bills come out on auto draft, and then whatever is left is your spending. Maybe you send some to investments, and you know, this is the number I have to live off of when it comes to all of my variable expenses. Is that wrong? Absolutely not. I definitely want it to be very intentional, though.
I found that let's talk about multiple accounts for a second, because I found that helps budgets too. Mm-hmm. When you segregate your money, when you keep the money that's your vacation fund over here, you keep your money that's for debt repayment. Do you have multiple accounts?
I do. So we do have one account that's really for like our income and our expenses, but I have an automatic transfer that takes money out for Christmas, HOA dues, flood insurance. It's taken out 2 days after I'm paid, because it has to be, or else I'm going to spend it. So I have money that's taken out automatically. And then yes, we have money kind of siphoned to different areas for our different goals, like vacation, things like that. We have an account that's just called Something We Want. I don't know what it is. It's just something we want. That way, whenever one day I find something I want, I can say, is this worth spending this money on? And this Something We Want account, and it allows me to do that. I really want to get a backyard pool. My husband's not on board 100%. He said, well, if you can save up for it in cash, fine, do it. But like, I really don't want to do it. So I'm like, maybe that's my pool fund. Maybe I'll just wait, and then one day I'll change my mind, and I just have this money to spend on something else I want.
Of course. I like how you snuck that in there. Derek over on YouTube says, not really a budgeting question. Derek, are you kidding me? So Derek, I don't know about you, Allison, but Cheryl and I were married for maybe 15 minutes before we started getting this. So when are you guys having kids? Question. Right? Like I'm like, whoa, I'm at my wedding reception. Don't ask me about kids. Huh. But Derek says, not really a budgeting question. Are you planning on growing with your readers by writing about your next steps? So are we going to have the sequel, The Budget Strikes Back, Allison's continuing budget adventures?
I don't know. Writing a book was a lot of work. I mean, it was not always fun. I went in the process. I was like, I'm never doing this again. Like, this is it. This is what you get. I don't even know what else I would say. And then one day I was showering and another book idea came to me. I know. And I was like, what are you doing, Allison? Why would you do this again?
But I got so mad. It's same thing happened to me last year. You and I met almost exactly a year ago on my book tour. And it was all of a sudden I get this book idea and I'm like, shut up.
Yep. Yeah. So I don't know. Let me just get this one out in the world. Maybe not. Stay tuned to find out.
Tyson, the first half of his question, Tyson couldn't be here today. Tyson works in Alaska in the Arctic Circle.
Ooh.
He sends us pictures of the Aurora Borealis all the time. It's
Oh my
super cool.
gosh.
But anyway, Tyson, so I think we answered part of this, but the back end of this is interesting. So I'm just going to read the full thing. What's the best way to keep your budget tied to a timeline? I think we talked about the calendar. I know I just added $400 for groceries this month, but I get paid again next week and I allocate money again to groceries for next month into the same bucket halfway through the month. So he's already blown the next part, because he had to add to it. When glancing at the balance, I forget how much I've spent and how much I have left for the month, and nobody has time for double checking, smiley face, which gets, I guess, to the point we didn't talk about in this interview. You do talk about it a little bit in the book, tracking your expenses along the way. Maybe this is where Tyson needs help.
Yes. Writing a budget is really your plan. It's your future. It's saying what you want to happen. That does not always go as planned. It doesn't. It's not always going to go as planned, and that's okay. So tracking your expenses really comes down to actually seeing where your money went. And then, do I need to make any changes? So what I would recommend he does is track his expenses. There are so many apps available. I think that it really depends on the type of what you're going to consistently stick with. I've been using Quicken. I actually started using Microsoft Money when I was in college.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, old school. I ended up overdrafting, at the grocery store at HEB. And my mom said, I'll help you under one condition. You come home and we're going to get Microsoft Money on your laptop. And I've since moved to Quicken. May Microsoft Money rest in peace. But it allows you to really look at your habits, because it's all one thing to say, this is what I'm going to do, but we don't always follow through on what we say we're going to do. So tracking your spending allows you to actually see what has happened, so that way you can make changes in the next month so that your budget's realistic. Because if he's blowing through it really fast, that doesn't tell me he's a bad spender. It tells me that the amount he set is not realistic.
Yeah. Andre SC211 over on YouTube says, how many accounts are too many, or what is the ideal amount? Is there a time when you've got too many accounts?
I think that the amount of accounts that's too many is whenever it starts really annoying you and stressing you out, because it just depends on what you're used to. I mean, I have several savings account. I have one checking account. My husband is a 1099 contract employee of my business, so he has his own special checking account where he can spend his money. But the moment it becomes a headache to manage, and the moment that it overwhelms you, that's your red flag to know, okay, this is too much. I don't need a special account for car maintenance and clothing and HOA dues and Christmas and vacation and something we want to buy and the future pool and vet expense. No, my ADHD brain cannot be doing that. So when you start feeling that way, it's time to consolidate. And so our emergency fund has consolidated. It's going to cover unexpected vet visits and unexpected home repairs and unexpected medical costs. So it's consolidated.
Yeah, I will. And I'll second that emotion, Andre, which is when I was working with individuals and with families, everybody was different. And it totally is what your brain likes. I had people that couldn't think about more than 3 accounts. It was I can't do it. And I had clients that had 20 accounts and did great. And if they had 19 accounts, they'd freak out. Yeah. So I think this goes much more back to your money mindset chapter and about knowing yourself. Oh, you know what? Mike here has a question. Mike is in Minneapolis. I got to meet Mike on my book tour. Cool guy. But before we get to Mike's question, I want to go back to something that you said, because so many people love Microsoft Money. That is a name that just keeps coming up and coming up and coming up. Yeah. And I don't know if you've seen this though, Allison, but Tiller now is working with Microsoft, and they're the official Microsoft extension. So if people liked Microsoft Money, I would tell you to go try out Tiller. Yeah. Tiller, very reliable app. The cool thing about Tiller, you pay for it. That's the bad news. But the good news is then you know what you're paying, and you're not the product, you're the customer. When it's free, my Mint drove me crazy.
Oh, I couldn't do it.
Because I was getting marketed nonstop because I was the product.
Yes, and then if you're using it on your phone, I used it way back when like 2012 and my phone screen was like this big and half of it's an ad. I'm like, no, it was overwhelming because I had undiagnosed ADHD. I was not medicated.
Yeah.
So I could not do Mint. So I pay for Quicken every year. It's like a membership. I pay, I don't know, $40 a year. But
Yeah.
to me, it is worth every penny because I have full control over my money. What it grants me is worth the cost.
Yeah, I'm using right now Cube Premium,
Okay.
which I enjoy. I really like having my money in these little cubes because to
Mhm.
Andre's point, I can have the 10 different boxes, envelopes of my money, but it still is all in one account. You know,
Exactly. Yeah.
it's like the best of both worlds. So those are a few. Mike, by the way, was asking how to find a great app without trying everything for $60. Meaning, he tries out this one, he pays for it, tries out this one, tries out this one. I don't know, Mike, that there is a way, but those are a few. Have you
Yeah.
heard any from your community, Allison? Because you've got a
Oh my
huge
gosh.
community.
I mean,
Any ones that they really like as well?
a lot of people love YNAB.
Oh yeah,
A
right.
lot of people love
Yes.
it. And here's the deal is I think that I would say like go and sign up for the free trials, but any app or any process you're going to be using, it's going to take time. You have to commit to it for at least, I would say 3 months. So give yourself 3 months in one of them and really think about what are you going to stick to consistently? What is something like it doesn't have to be the best. It doesn't have to even fill every need you have. It really doesn't. Like I use Quicken, but I don't use Quicken to track my net worth. It doesn't have to fill that need for me. I mean, it could, but I don't like the way they do it. So find something and don't make it be this like perfect aha thing that has to like check every single box. Find something that you can use that you can just stick to consistently.
I love that because I feel like too often we get stuck on the stuff that doesn't truly matter.
Yeah.
Like really the best budget that Cheryl and I have is that we have a weekly money meeting. Like we use
Yeah.
tools, we use all this stuff, but it's not about the tools, about the fact we talk about it. And that
Mhm.
helps us a ton. It's almost like, and you've seen this with podcasters, Allison, like podcasts, like, ooh, what microphone to use? Ooh, what mixer to, what platform are you doing? Are you on
Yeah.
Fireside? Who cares?
Mhm.
It's not about that. It's about
Yeah.
making something interesting.
It's about putting out weekly podcasts. That's
Yes.
all it is. And so same thing with your money. It's about consistently tracking or consistently knowing. And I talk about that in the book,
Yeah.
how you also, I mean, we're all different learners and we all prefer different styles. So it's about going with something that you think you're going to be able to stick with. Like, I'm not a super tech savvy person. I don't want to have it all on my phone. That's too little for me. I want to see something on a computer that is easy to understand and I can, update and look at patterns easily.
This was fabulous. I'm so happy you have a book. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
I just know how hard it is. This is so great and so well written. It is.
Oh,
It
thank
was.
you.
Yeah.
Well, if it's well written, I wrote it. If it's not well written, I hired a ghostwriter.
You
That's
said
what
that
I did.
already.
I know, but I did write it. I did not hire a ghostwriter.
I just can't. I just don't want to. Like I had Emily write half of my book,
Mhm.
but and her guidance was invaluable. But a ghostwriter, I just don't want to do that. I don't. I
Yeah.
want to be me. Yeah.
Well, but then when you go and you like talk about it, it's like you don't remember it or you're not really sure necessarily what you said. And I don't know, but I'm
Yeah.
very excited about it.
Not for me. Well, congratulations on a job well done.
Thank you so much. I
Guys,
appreciate it.
that's it for today. Thanks for hanging out with us on, if you're over on YouTube, thanks for hanging out with us. If you're hanging out here on Fireside, I love this app. I love the utility of it. I love the fact that people can ask questions. I'm sad nobody jumped up on stage and asked us a question today, but next time you can. I'm going to be gone next week. I'm at the Economy Conference next week. Allison, you going to Economy?
I am not. We are going on a family trip to the Smoky Mountains. We're doing
I
a lot of
love
traveling.
it.
Lots of traveling this year for us. So my kids are on spring break and we're going to live it up.
I so love it. Do you guys hike?
Oh yes, we hike.
So up near Klingman's Dome, if you don't have everything already planned, there is a hike. It's not that far from
Okay, I was gonna
from
ask.
that. It's called it's a hike. It's on the Appalachian Trail, like the Appalachian
Okay.
Trail, but it's to a place I think it's called Charles Bunyan. If you look it up,
Okay.
I'll send it to you.
Yes.
But the hike to Charles Bunyan is a beautiful hike. But when you get there, you have a cliff going straight up, and then you have a cliff as the trail goes around this thing, straight down like
Oh.
like 1,000 feet.
Wow. Sounds like a lovely hike to bring my young children on. Thank you for
Well, we
telling
did.
me.
My kids were like 9. Like, don't get me
That's
wrong.
how old my kids are.
Yeah, they have like, well, that's what I thought. My kids were into self-preservation. I told Cheryl, I'm like, are we crazy doing this hike? She's like, they're not going to jump. Like they're going to be, yeah, like they are.
I'm not worried about jumping. I'm worried about slipping.
No, they'll be fine. Like everybody took care of it, but it was beautiful. It was
Okay.
the most beautiful hike. Maybe 4 miles, which,
Okay. Yeah. So we have to, if we went without the kids, we would do a lot more hiking, to be honest. But so we have
Yes.
to think about them, unfortunately.
oh, you know what we did? We
What?
went on these little mini hikes, which we call, because the first mile of any hike we took was we would get a bunch of bitching from the kids. I hate it. It's horrible. And once they realized, yes, we are going to be out here. Yeah, we are. My kids became pretty good hikers, but we had to do all these warm up hikes to get them to not complain.
Oh, I bribe with ice cream. I bribe them. I'm like, you guys, we're going to finish this.
I'll go.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, if you finish this, like first I try the internal motivation, like, oh, you're going to be so proud of yourself. And, I really try to like instill that intrinsic motivation. And then I pull out the bribery. I'm not against it.
That's so funny. We're done, by the way, with the topic, and people got to go. But I will tell you, do you have a second?
Yeah, I do.
If you have a second, I'll tell you one story about this hike. So we are hiking along, and my son is just chattering nonstop. And we're talking about history. He's interested in World War II at that time. So he's asking me questions. We're talking World War II. But anyway, we are hiking on the way back, and morale for my kids, for whatever reason, this day is very high. Everybody's happy. It's a beautiful day. And he starts singing this song that I taught him at our campsite, which is to the tune of God Bless America. You may have heard this song. I learned it in Cub Scouts. It's called God Bless My Underwear. Do you know God Bless My Underwear?
I don't.
So it goes, God bless my underwear, my only pair. Stand beside it and guide it from the washer to the dryer to my drawer. And then, like from the washer to the dryer to the clothes basket to the drawer. God bless my underwear. And so my son is singing this at full blast, right? And you can hear it echoing on the mountains. So he stops and we're talking about something else. And we come across this grizzled guy. He has been out walking the entire Appalachian Trail. He's got the professional gear. He's walking and he's like, I was wondering when I was going to find you guys. He goes, I love it that kids are so patriotic these days. Like him singing God Bless America is so neat. And I didn't have the heart to tell him that my kid wasn't singing God Bless America.
No. Oh my gosh. That is hilarious. You're like, yep, that's my son. I'm raising him well.
Very patriotic. He's incredibly patriotic. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. I love it. No, my kids are in Cub Scouts. Well, I have one in Cub Scouts. One just moved on to Boy Scouts.
Oh, nice.
So my son came back from the latest camp out and like, all of these songs are just very morbid, like a moose dying and all these other things. I'm like, I don't like these. Like, what are you doing?
I know. I remember a song that was about eating like worms. I'm going to go eat worms. Yeah. I mean, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's kids.
Yes.
Kids.
That's why.
That's why. All
right, everybody. Thanks, Allison, for coming today. But next week, I'm not going to be here. In 2 weeks, we're going to have Bob Wheeler. Allison, you know Bob, I think. Do you know Bob Wheeler? Bob from, he's got a show called Money You Should Ask.
Okay.
He's the CFO of the biggest comedy club, the Comedy Store, the biggest comedy club in LA.
Oh, cool.
But he also is a CPA, and he's going to do last minute tax planning with us. So
Allison's so helpful.
Allison's got budgeting. Bob in 2 weeks is going to have tax planning. So join us then, everybody.